Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have full review of the Google Pixel Watch 4. Let's get started. This is the first Google Watch officially sold in Mexico. We waited long for this, arriving with Google Pixel 10 Pro and 10 Pro XL. Now you can enjoy a more complete Google device ecosystem. However, it not only functions when connected to Pixel devices, but it also works with various other Android devices. So let me share all the details with you, because I find it to be quite an appealing option for anyone searching for a watch that offers many features. In this particular case, it has been introduced in two distinct sizes. You will have the option to choose between 41mm and 45mm. The version I currently possess is the 45mm, which is considered the larger size. Evidently, in addition to being larger, it will have more screen space and more battery. The rest of the features will be the same between both models, but because of the difference in size, there is also a difference in price. The smaller model was launched in Mexico at a price of 7,999 pesos. Meanwhile, the bigger model is priced at a total of 8,999 pesos. It is available at Google Store and some other distributors. We have to take into account that the price is considerably high, so let's push it pretty hard and see how it fares. Let's start describing it point by point. Begin discussing the design. It's a watch that really looks quite nice, particularly due to the curved finish of the glass. In fact, it features a very pronounced curve which gives it a really modern appearance. It doesn't include a metal frame or anything similar. This watch aims to appear very technological rather than like a fashion accessory. The cover is made of Gorilla Glass 5, although I would have expected sapphire in this case. At this price point, I believe we could definitely expect a bit more from it. Keep in mind that it has a thickness of 12.3mm, which means it's not an extremely thin watch, but to be honest, it doesn't feel uncomfortable or anything like that. When it comes to weight, you'll find differences. Depending on the size, the small model comes to 31 grams, while the large model approximately weighs 36.7 grams. In this case, we will find a recycled aluminum case, surely with some alloy, and we are going to find the back also with a glass design that looks very nice and also feels good. In fact, something quite curious is that this back cover is also designed to be curved, giving it a curved feel both on the top and bottom. Additionally, the range of color availability is quite extensive. For the smaller size, we have lilac, lime green, porcelain, and obsidian black. Meanwhile, for the larger size, the options are moonstone, porcelain, and obsidian black. It's pretty obvious which color I have here with me, but I really appreciate that there are a variety of different options available. By pressing it just once, we can navigate to the home screen or the list of applications. This depends on the section we are currently in. When we press it twice, we gain access to Google Pay. If your cards are already set up, you have the option to add a payment method here. Of course, it's necessary to set up a lock pattern for the screen beforehand. Additionally, by pressing and holding this button, we can access the shutdown menu. So those are the functions. I noticed that in the settings, there is no section available to change their behavior. There are other watches out there that do allow you, for example, to modify if you do not typically pay with the watch. Instead, if you usually use some other application, you can open it with that same shortcut, but unfortunately here it is not an option. I believe it's something they could definitely add with a future update. However, it's not the only button that we will come across. Also above, we are going to find another button called Side Button, which notes that with a touch allows us to open the list of recent applications. Interestingly, with two taps, it's also going to open Google Play. So it's a bit repetitive, this gesture. With two taps on any of the buttons, you open Google Pay. That's why I insist that it would be very good to let us customize which application we want to open with these gestures. And finally, with a long tap, we're going to enable Google Gemini. This is the voice assistant that we'll discuss a bit later. It has excellent capabilities. I think that in terms of the number of buttons, it's quite fine. However, I would like to add that customization is important. Also, I forgot to mention that the digital crown is, of course, going to be very useful for navigating through the interface. It provides really good haptic feedback, making the experience even better. Regarding water resistance, it features 5 ATM and IP ratings, allowing you to swim with it without issues. Of course, it's not meant for deep diving, but you can definitely swim with this watch. Interestingly, the water mode can activate automatically, even if you haven't manually turned it on. If the watch senses you're in water, it will lock the screen to prevent accidental touches. Even so, through the software, we are going to discover the option to manually enable water mode. As you can observe, this will lock the screen, preventing any interactions. To reactivate the screen and use it again, simply press and hold the digital crown for a duration of 2 seconds. Interestingly, at the moment of exiting the screen, all it takes is pressing and holding the digital crown for 2 seconds. The water mode doesn't release the water right away. To do that, you need to return to this water mode option. Then at the bottom, it instructs you to start a water expulsion process. Although it may also be that in this case, it is not detecting that I have water in the watch, and therefore has not expelled it immediately when leaving the water mode, as it is quite intelligent, but I like that it does bring these options. When it comes to the screen, we have an AMOLED panel with LTPO technology, which Google refers to as Actua 360. I must say, it features a very intriguing curved design. This design is something we've noticed in a few other watches, but it's not very common, which gives you the impression that the screen indeed has this rounded effect. In the 41mm version, the display measures 1.2 inches. In this 45mm version, the display measures 1.4 inches. It is impressively broad. Google really strives to conceal the bezel, so you'll notice that it consistently prioritizes using black backgrounds. This way, it becomes much less noticeable and harder to distinguish. Even when you turn on the flashlight, you will notice that it only has a gradient, which makes it hard to tell exactly where the screen ends. But hey, it is truly a great quality screen, with vibrant color and excellent contrast, obviously being AMOLED. It comes with 60 Hz, which is quite good for a watch. If you notice a lot of fluidity in the watch, it does not feel clunky or anything like that at all. The screen resolution will provide us with around 300 pixels per inch for both sizes. Although the resolution may differ from one watch to another, 320 pixels per inch offers an incredibly detailed display, especially at the typical viewing distance for a watch. This means it's going to look outstanding. Additionally, it boasts a peak brightness of 3000 nits, ensuring perfect visibility even in bright sunlight. Besides focusing on the high brightness, the low brightness is just 1 nit, which is comfortable at night. You'll appreciate it, as other watches don't dim as much at night and can be tiring or annoying. Luckily, it has automatic brightness, so you don't need to adjust it manually, though you can disable that option if you prefer manual control. And in this case, curiously, a kind of night mode is integrated for the screen, although it is enabled exclusively when you turn on the go to sleep mode. Notice that the screen immediately applies a kind of blue light filter so that the contents do not look so intense and you can have a more comfortable vision. Although it does not dye everything in red, as we see in some other watches, but it seems to me a good solution to have a comfortable viewing at night. As you can observe, it also includes the always on display feature, and it is quite similar, maintaining practically the same design. The only noticeable difference is that the thickness of certain fonts changes slightly when it is activated. Pay attention as I place my palm over it and you'll see the typography reduce its thickness. However, I must emphasize that it retains a very similar aesthetic, which is something that I really appreciate. This is because, unlike other watches that alter their appearance quite drastically when they switch to the always on display mode, this one does not. However, in this case, if we are going to have an excellent watch with this very attractive screen, and in fact being the TPO always on display is not going to consume too much battery, unlike other watches that when you turn on always on display, the battery drops completely. And of course, it also has the gesture to activate when you turn your wrist. So in terms of display, there's not something we can demand from it. It really is very good. The screen is brutal, it looks great. Let's talk a little about the sound, because in this case, it is a watch that does bring integrated speaker and microphone. That's great news, because right off the bat, it gives us the option to answer calls directly from the watch, which is quite useful, at least for my type of user, who tends to leave my cell phone everywhere. If a call comes in, I don't have to go running for it, but I can answer it from the watch itself. However, it also provides us with access to Gemini, which is Google's voice assistant, allowing you to interact with Gemini as much as you desire. This assistant is quite advanced, although in this instance you can't look back at past conversations like you can on a smartphone, for example. Nevertheless, it's a way to quickly resolve any doubts you might have. Let's go through some examples. Please provide me with a list of the 3 most notable features of the Google Pixel Watch 4. As you can see, it's handy for information queries and supports other utilities. For example, basics like setting a 5-minute timer. And there it is. It does quite well. You can also ask it for alarms. It adds an alarm at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday to Friday. It's done very well. And from here, I can log in to disable it or add events to the calendar, schedule a test event on my calendar for tomorrow at 3 p.m. As you come to realize, Gemini plays a crucial role in enhancing the experience of using this watch because it performs exceptionally well. You can also add items to your Google Keep shopping lists. It's important to note that this isn't the only watch featuring Gemini, yet it remains perfectly and seamlessly integrated. Take note that the gesture section within the settings offers the option to lift to talk. This lets us focus on the clock to instruct Gemini without using the keyword or similar phrases. Let's try it out because typically you can say, "Hey Google, tell me something interesting about today," and watch as it searches. That's the basic function. But if you prefer not to use the keyword to activate it, just move it closer to your voice. Let's test with a 5-minute timer. It didn't work initially. Let's try a 5-minute timer again. It doesn't seem to work either. Let's see, there's supposed to be an icon there. But I don't think lifting to speak would be a prominent feature because it's quite complicated to use. I'm going to give it one last try with a 5-minute timer. It didn't work. But continuing with the audio theme, the watch itself would have the ability to play music through its speaker. Although there you will depend on what application you use, because some do not allow it. Consider that. Fortunately, you can use Bluetooth headphones connected to your watch. You can go for a run and leave your cell phone at home, yet still enjoy your favorite music. Thanks to Wear OS, you have the ability to download and use apps such as YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, and many more. This means you can have all your music or podcasts conveniently accessible right on your wrist. So, the entire sound section also comes almost completely covered. The only thing it might lack, just to be a bit too picky, would be a siren. But you know, I've only seen that feature on the Apple Watch Ultra, which is significantly more expensive. So, I only bring it up as something that could possibly be included in the future, but honestly, it's not really necessary. The sound experience is also very comprehensive and complete. And to wrap up at this point, vibration plays a crucial role, which is excellently addressed here. This watch stands out in the haptic realm, offering one of the best vibration experiences. The vibration is very precise and punctual, so much so that you don't merely hear it, rather it feels like a gentle yet noticeable jolt on your wrist. What's even more impressive is that you have the option to adjust the vibration's intensity to your liking, allowing for a personalized touch. This feature ensures that the vibration is not only effective but also customizable to suit different preferences and situations. In various kinds of environments, regardless of whether you prefer it to vibrate when you turn the crown or not. The truth is that the configuration also comes very complete, and that also allows us to take better advantage of the watch. In fact, the sound configuration also comes very complete with different settings for different parameters. Let's talk a little bit about health monitoring in general. A few years ago, Google acquired Fitbit. And in this case, we are starting to see even more of this merger between Google and Fitbit. Since here, we are going to find Fitbit as the default app to monitor all kinds of health-related aspects directly in the Fitbit app. Today, we are going to have relevant information starting from the basics, such as the number of steps you've taken, the floors you have been, the approximate distance you have traveled, and the calories you have consumed. All these parameters provide very good information for you to see how you have performed throughout your day or during the week. What has been your best day? The truth is that it feels really good to explore all these parameters directly on the watch itself. Unlike other watches, which typically offer a much simpler display on the watch and provide more detailed information through the mobile app, here you can directly access and view all this information. From the watch, you can see it very clearly. In terms of heart or blood-related features, there is continuous 24/7 heart rate monitoring available. In fact, you even have the option to set it up. You'll receive alerts to inform you whenever your heart rate rises too high or drops too low based on the preferences you've set for what you wish to be notified about. Even though that feature is only available via the cell phone, I believe it's crucial to include it so you can adjust it directly from the watch. You will also be able to check your resting heart rate variability, and naturally, your blood oxygen. The watch will automatically monitor these parameters, allowing you to view your resting heart rate variability, and of course, your blood oxygen. Take a look and check if you're within range. Everything should behave well. One important thing to note is that the watch includes electrocardiogram capabilities. However, in Mexico, this option is unfortunately not available. Keep in mind that it heavily depends on the approvals of health entities themselves due to various regulations and more. This feature cannot be enjoyed on this watch in Mexico, although in other countries it is possible. Regarding sleep monitoring, we found something quite advanced. Notice it includes a graph showing various stages like REM sleep, light sleep, awake, and deep sleep. You can also observe here the duration you spend specifically in each sleep stage. Additionally, the app provides further insights, such as the regularity of your sleep patterns, estimated oxygen variation, and if you have Fitbit Premium, you can access data about sleep apnea risk. Yes, I understand. Many of us are reluctant to pay a subscription fee for advanced features, but in this particular situation, fitness. It's been around a long time and remains after Google and Fitbit merged. And don't forget that within the app, you have the ability to go and view your entire history. You can see all the trends you've experienced over various days. This feature is incredibly useful, especially if you're aiming to maintain a thorough record, such as when you're asleep. Additionally, it can measure the variation in your skin temperature, providing another valuable data point to determine if your body is undergoing any changes. It takes a few days to calibrate, and today can tell me if I'm within my normal range, or if my body's temperature changes, indicating stress issues. The watch has many features. Fitbit was a pioneer in this area. So going to encounter, for example, something known as body response. It is translated as body responses. In this instance, for example, it shows me 0 minutes, but I can manually log my mood and it records, for instance, how many times this week I experienced some responses from my body. Remember, in this scenario, it will measure the electrical pulses your body can generate, which are more or less related to stress and other factors. Then, directly from the mobile app itself, you can begin to manage everything related to stress in a more comprehensive way. The watch is capable of sending you notifications to assist you in reducing stress whenever it detects that it's necessary. If you're someone who's very introspective, you'll notice that in this situation, it asks me how you are feeling between 10:44 and 10:59. Here, I have the opportunity to record my mood, which allows me to receive a lot of feedback. This feedback provides me with various recommendations and much more. Therefore, if you're truly interested in staying aware of your mood, emotions, and other aspects, you can also maintain these kinds of records right here. For instance, notice that 2 days ago it noted that at 8 in the evening I experienced a period of 5 minutes where my body noticed that it had a response, which I could choose from over here to jot down how I was feeling at that particular moment. In a similar manner, it's going to document all those instances when our body emitted certain responses which may have been caused by stress or some other factors. So clearly, it also features its own dedicated application for breathing exercises. Additionally, it includes an entire mindfulness section that tracks how often we engage in these breathing exercises to help us relax. It's important to point out that you can customize it with various types of sessions. For women, there will also be an option to predict your menstrual cycle using the integrated temperature sensor, which ensures a higher accuracy than simply relying on other methods. A repeated forecast. Allow me to edit this page to display the option that is typically disabled by default in this profile. This is just to let you see the various options that could be available here. In this instance, it involves a very specific type of monitoring that enables you to meticulously record your entire history, including your symptoms and more, to ensure greater accuracy. For example, it inquires about the duration of your average cycle, as well as approximately how long the entire cycle lasts. Additionally, it prompts you to provide the date of the last occurrence. Let's choose any day to understand what it does. It also inquires if you are using any hormonal contraceptives and, well, as you can observe here, it can additionally send you notifications of predictions to emphasize fertile phases, cycle phases, and menstruation predictions. I must emphasize that all of this takes into account not just a basic prediction, but it will also consider your skin temperature to achieve much greater accuracy. Here you see the full calendar. You can add when menstruation starts and label symptoms, moods, and more for an accurate record. When it comes to sports monitoring, things will definitely catch your attention because in this situation, unlike many other watches that are even less expensive, it offers significantly fewer modes for sports activities. You'll come across a brief list, and honestly, this aspect has intrigued me quite a bit. I've tried several exercises and I must say I haven't noticed much variation in the measurements among them. The measurements are quite similar. It doesn't count squats or rope jumps, features found in cheaper watches. I'm not a fitness specialist, but I can tell you that I don't see anything as sophisticated here as I've seen on some other watches. For instance, let's begin with this option, which is weightlifting. We'll check what it can monitor. In this case, as you can observe, it merely tracks the time, the heart rate zone we're in, approximate calories, and that's basically it. Honestly, there isn't much more information provided. In this section, we will be able to control our music directly from the wrist, all while staying within the exercise interface. We can also easily lock the screen, end the session, or pause it if needed. One good aspect is that you are able to exit this screen and interact with other areas of your watch, such as responding to notifications or similar tasks. Furthermore, at the bottom of the screen, there is a small icon that allows you to return to your workout screen. This is quite good. Yet I am struck by how limited it is when it comes to exercises. You will not be able to create custom routines with different exercises, rest intervals, or anything like that. You can only create running routines. In this instance, it integrates dual GPS for excellent accuracy, which is a positive aspect, and it also includes automatic detection of 6 activities, so you don't need to start monitoring manually. Here in the settings of the exercise application itself of F, we will be able to have, for example, this section of Remember Start, where you choose which sports you want to automatically start monitoring or also to stop automatically. As you can see, the start is disabled by default, although the end is enabled by default. Here you can also configure what you want it to do. The side button can pause and resume workouts instead of just opening recent apps. The watch also provides aerobic capacity data, showing your body's oxygen levels. Importantly, it gives cardiovascular load data, but you'll need to wear the watch for several days to see results. In this case, as you can see, it already shows me a bit of information. but it requires more time to tell me what my range is and if I'm in or out of that range. If you are one of the most athletic people, it can also give you a kind of training load, where you can tell if your body is ready for more exercise or if you should reduce intensity. All collected data is viewable in the Fitbit app. Now, as part of Google, it also connects with Google Health Connect for other apps. Though it's best with Fitbit's app, let's move on to some additional interesting information that might relate somewhat to health, although in this particular case it connects more with emergencies because it includes fall detection. This is a feature that not many watches currently offer. So we will be checking that out in the settings under the security and emergency section. There we will locate the SOS section where we will find the fall detection option. In this scenario, it can notify an emergency contact if you have experienced a fall. Interestingly enough, in Mexico currently seems to be unavailable, although outside it says activated, but inside it is disabled. In true Pixel phone style, it also includes the detection of traffic accidents is also a very positive feature. In the unfortunate event of experiencing a crash, the watch has the capability to detect it and notify an emergency contact. However, it seems that this feature is temporarily unavailable. Unfortunately, for some reason, it appears that in Mexico we are still unable to access this option. Nevertheless, it remains an attractive feature because it could even share your exact location with the emergency contact, which is incredibly useful. Even in various other countries where we come across the LTD option available, you will also be able to send all these emergency messages without having to have your cell phone nearby. And in some countries, there is also the option of satellite communication so that even if there is no cellular network coverage, you can send these emergency messages. All these options, unfortunately, are not available in Mexico. I think that would be a very important issue to pay close attention to because it can be a factor that sounds very attractive when you are researching the watch, but if it does not work in our country, you lose a lot of that attraction. Let's now discuss the battery, which has often been a weak point for watches with Wear OS. In this instance, the 41mm watch is equipped with a 325 mAh battery, whereas the 45mm model boasts a capacity of 455 mAh. Therefore, I would suggest opting for the larger version, because while the smaller version will indeed last more than a day, it will require a little extra effort to do so. In this particular scenario, this watch might actually attempt to last up to 2 full days. And here, I'm specifically referring to a situation where the always on display feature is activated. Because if you choose not to have always on display, it will easily last you 2 days without any issues, and it might even extend further, depending on what features you have turned off. It's not necessarily a watch that requires daily charging if you decide not to use the always on display feature. However, if you decide to use the always on display feature, it is recommended to charge the device daily. I understand that this might seem a bit tedious, yet there's an important change Google has introduced in this watch, and I found it to be quite impressive. Take note that on one of its sides, there are some small pins that are cleverly concealed so they don't look unattractive or anything like that. This is because the charger now connects to these pins. They've decided to move away from wireless charging and instead opted for pin charging. While this might appear to be a step backwards, it's actually a significant improvement. Now, with just 15 minutes of being connected to its charger, it can charge up to 50%. This means you can easily charge it daily during your bath time, and that's all you need. You won't have to wait around for the watch to charge or worry about it running out of battery before the day ends. It's perfect in this way. Other watches might last over 7 or 14 days, but lack the features this watch offers due to its operating system. With fast charging, they've addressed battery issues. Even if you charge daily, it takes less than an hour. With 15 minutes every day you have enough. By the way, in my test in 30 minutes, it reached 82%, and in 50 minutes the charge was already complete. In addition, it brings a battery saving mode that you could also enable at times. In fact, this is automatically activated when you reach 15%, and that's it. Obviously, it will restrict some other things, disable always on display and more, but believe me, it is not so necessary if you charge it 15 minutes every day. The battery satisfies me. The software is a highlight of this watch. One highlight of this watch is the software. It features Wear OS 6. It's a complete OS with many functions, fluidity, and more. Let's begin with base navigation. Sliding top to bottom, we access the quick controls list, which is quite complete. However, it seems we can't edit their position, order, or place. Adding this feature would be interesting. We are going to discover, for instance, a feature that allows sending heart rate sensor data to exercise machines and similar equipment. This is a capability that not all devices include. Additionally, there is the traditional button which I use about 6 times daily to make my cell phone ring, enabling me to locate it more swiftly. Here, you will notice that it prompts you first before it rings. Therefore, you have that function available. Then we are going to locate the button for water mode, and there's another button to access Google Play. Additionally, there is a button for Google Home, which is quite interesting. This feature allows us to control our smart home devices directly from the watch, provided you have already added devices to Google Home. The initial use of applications will present a complete list of permissions, and this process can sometimes be a bit tedious. But I insist you can control your smart lights, TV, air conditioning, or more here, if connected to Google Home. Then there's airplane mode and the flashlight, which I mentioned comes with a gradient. You can change it to red, but the digital crown doesn't control brightness or intensity. I believe that's an area where they could really improve significantly. So we will find ourselves next with the brightness control. I had already mentioned to you that it can be set to adjust automatically, but you also have the option to set it manually if you prefer. After that, we will encounter the sleep mode, as well as the do not disturb mode and the cinema mode. These modes are quite similar to one another in function, but they can be very useful in different situations and settings. For instance, the cinema mode will silence all sounds, including alarms. More will deactivate the screen and fully disable the activation gestures. Do not disturb mode mutes interruptions like notifications or calls, but keeps some activation gestures. Finally, the sleep mode, which we saw, activates a blue light filter. Here, battery monitoring and pressing the button activates saving mode, limiting background photos. This can be useful and we'll access the settings soon. And finally, the sound mode, where they want it to simply vibrate or also emit some alarms. Sliding from right to left or left to right, we will navigate between these widgets, which are widgets that we can configure completely to our liking. Observe the fluidity that has the clock. That's something I like the most. And sliding from the bottom up, we access the list of notifications, which work very well. Notice that you can dismiss them by sliding them to the side, which is useful. But also, if you enter the notifications, they also have synchronized actions that your phone lets you do. For example, you can not only compose a reply, but also, in the case of Gmail, you can directly delete the email from your inbox, archive it, or mark it as read. In this sense, the interaction is quite advanced. Additionally, in various other scenarios, we might see images if the notification includes them, and as you can observe, they are grouped exceptionally well. When there are no notifications left, it simply indicates that you are already up to date. Also note that when you receive a WhatsApp notification, for instance, the profile picture, the WhatsApp icon, and the message itself are displayed. From this point, we'll be able to respond in various ways. It could be by using an emoji or by typing with the keyboard or even by dictating the message out loud. Additionally, we would have the option of using predetermined messages, allowing us to respond with just a single touch. The way notifications are managed is simply outstanding, truly the best available among smartwatches. In this case, we're referring to the Wear OS operating system, which is also found in some other watches. For instance, if an emoji is sent to you, it can display it. In this case, it not only shows emojis like, but it can also display emojis that are a bit rarer. Some other watches might just show a square or a tense. Notice here, we can easily see everything without issues. As you observed, I received 2 messages, and they appear in the same notification, not as separate messages, which can be annoying on other watches. Keep in mind that if you receive a sticker and have the automatic download feature enabled on your cell phone, you will also have the ability to view it here on the watch within the same conversation list. This is already quite beneficial, but additionally, if someone sends you a picture or an image, you will also be able to view it, provided that the automatic download is enabled on your cell phone. Note that it might take a few seconds, but after that, the result will be displayed, so there is no issue. Notification management is simply brutal. In this case, consider that I don't even have the WhatsApp app enabled. That gives me even more capacity. But watch. Now, I want to show you how it behaves when you receive messages from different contacts and they are continuous messages. Fortunately, the watch has stopped vibrating and beeping to prevent it from interrupting you in a very annoying way. Despite that, all the messages are coming through with no problem, allowing me to read them later. We are now going to dictate a response that's sufficient. And there you have it. Notice how it has also been very effective in responding. So after receiving this flood of messages, notice that I can clearly see the last message in the conversation that I have already replied to, and the other conversation is well organized, allowing me to read absolutely everything that was sent to me. Notification management, I must insist, is truly brutal on this watch. Keep in mind that the keyboard will also enable us to write using gestures, allowing you to just slide, similar to what happens on the watch. And the writing quality is quite excellent. Additionally, it includes buttons here that provide predictive text, and while you're typing here, you can also be inserting text, emojis. Additionally, we will have the ability to switch to symbols or even switch to dictation. This means you can effortlessly combine all the input methods available to respond more easily. I'm dictating this message right from the watch, and that's it. We'll send it perfectly. If managing notifications is your priority, this does it excellently. By holding down, we can easily change the watch face, and there's a great variety. Also, note that some watch faces can be edited. Note it takes seconds to edit, but we can do it. Change the color using the digital crown. Some paint one color, others mix colors. Explore with the digital crown. Then we'll have different design options like switching to linear arcs. It can start with just default arcs, and then you can rearrange all the elements. After that, you can also modify the indicators located around here, which are often referred to as complications. Here, you have the option to select, for instance, a shortcut to add a note to Google Keep or to add a list or even manage a Google Home device. You can also access alarms, among other things. In short, there are many additional tools available beyond the usual health indicators that other clocks typically offer. Then there's extensive OS customization for a home screen tailored to your liking. The phaser is quite functional, and honestly, I was really impressed with this part, because there are a variety of designs available for you to choose from when setting up your watch. So, in reality, it is very comprehensive, coming with a wide array of tools that are integrated into the system itself. However, we will additionally have the capability to install a significantly larger number of covers via Google Play. Of course, we will also have even more options available through Phaser, which is an application found on Google Play. Finally, the covers are also among its most significant strengths. Through the mobile application, we have the ability to interact and customize these covers. From within the app, we can edit them with greater ease. This is particularly useful if we desire more space to view all the options clearly and conveniently. The process is streamlined, allowing us to make adjustments effortlessly and ensure that everything is set up according to our preferences, enhancing the overall user experience. It's clear that customization is excellent. Here, we can also add our own photos, allowing up to 30% for better interaction. For instance, I selected some photos, and interestingly, it even detects live photos to include the movement. And keep in mind, our gallery will be accessible here. We can press once to change the picture. If we press and hold, we can edit the clock style, whether we want it subtle or larger. It's great for personal customizations. Regarding other apps, note that the alarm app is well designed. It allows adding multiple alarms and offers the option to edit them for a snooze feature. You can configure the alarm for sound, vibration, or just sound. It's a great customization, unlike other watches. You can install apps like Amazon Music or Audible via Google Play Store for more features. Google's Calendar is also available. The watch includes the native camera shutter. Only with Google Pixel. If you don't have a Pixel cell phone, you'll need to install additional apps. For instance, in this case, I installed this app called Camera One. Notice that it functions quite well, and it can even provide us with a preview of what's happening in the camera. However, to access more advanced features, it does ask you to upgrade to the premium section, which comes at an extra cost. But generally speaking, it works well even, though it's not a native application. You can use this watch with other non-Pixel cell phones to access these kinds of tools. Here, I also installed another app specifically for tuning instruments, just to demonstrate that through Google Play, you can gain a multitude of capabilities right on your wrist. We also have the weather application, contacts, and the multimedia playback controls of your cell phone. Additionally, we have the stopwatch application here, and I want you to see that it is designed in such a way that you can conveniently use it on your wrist. It's quite nice, though interestingly, it doesn't seem to have a lap marking option, which I find rather odd. But hey, surely you can install it from some other app on the Play Store. We have the entire Fitbit section that I showed you a moment ago, and Gemini, which we also already discussed. We even have Gmail available right on your wrist. And yes, take note that here you can actually go and read the emails that you've received, which I think is simply phenomenal. You can also access the voice recorder itself to easily record a quick thought or something similar. Here, you obviously have to give it the necessary permissions before you start, and that's it. We're going to also access Google Home, as I had already shown you a moment ago. The watch, however, doesn't come with a web browser. Interestingly though, from the Play Store, you can install the Samsung web browser. This means that from here, you could access web pages directly from your wrist and everything will work perfectly fine. Additionally, you have the Google Maps application, which allows you to navigate step by step with your watch on your wrist if you're walking around. Having access to messages, being able to keep notes, and even accessing Spotify or using the timer are all possible. As I mentioned, you can also install WhatsApp, which allows you to view all your conversations and start new ones. Without WhatsApp, notifications work well, but you cannot start a conversation unless you use Gemini. For example, you can send a WhatsApp message to Mr. Pablo saying, "This is a message I am sending you from Gemini Twins."
Claro, un mensaje para Mr. Pablo diciendo, este es un mensaje que te estoy enviando desde Gemini.
Note that from Gemini, you could send a message via WhatsApp, which is fantastic and phenomenal. The only curious thing is that Gemini is not able to recognize its own name, but, well, that's just a curious fact. As I say, one of the most attractive things about this watch is that it offers access to the Google Play Store. So there we have many popular applications that can provide more capabilities to the clock. If you are someone who really enjoys interacting with various things directly from your wrist, or if you like to install a small game and do even more, the truth is that the possibilities here are quite extensive. This is mainly due to the popularity and wide adoption of this operating system. In conclusion, this watch truly offers a lot of great features. Despite its notably high price, it runs on Wear OS, which is a significant advantage. This operating system provides a wide range of available applications, enhancing the watch's functionality significantly. From Google Play Store, install apps like Amazon Music, you can install many. You can also have WhatsApp here to browse conversations, not just reply to notifications. The notification response is amazing, it groups well, shows emojis, photos, is excellent. Yet, Wear OS battery life has been a weak spot. In this case, I think it has been solved thanks to the fast charge. With 15 minutes that you put it on its base, it will be able to charge up to 50%, and 50% of the battery can already give you a day. So it's a watch that if you're going to have to charge every day still, but only for 15 minutes or a little bit more. So thanks to fast charging, I think the battery is no longer as bad as it usually was on Wear OS watches. Of course, it is still quite a distance from other alternatives that provide you with a battery life of 14 days or something similar. However, consider that the capabilities of the operating system here are significantly greater. Additionally, it feels incredibly fluid. The screen is absolutely spectacular. It's always on display is fantastic. And having Gemini integrated will also enable you to interact with very sophisticated voice commands. You can make interesting queries for information, add events to the calendar, set alarms, and do many, many more things. Its weakest point is still the battery, but with fast charging, it's manageable. The design is excellent due to the curved screen, and both sound and vibration are great. I wish the button actions could be customized with 2, 3 or long touches, but you can't change the defaults. So it is a watch that is really going to give us a very good experience, although I insist its price is a little higher than we would have liked in Mexico, 7,999 pesos for the smaller edition. Another thing we could criticize is that although it has advanced features such as electrocardiogram, emergency messages for fall detection or crash detection in the car, these are options that are not available in Mexico. So I think that if it is going to come with code functions, also the price should be cut. However, that would be my review. The overall experience has truly been quite positive, and I really enjoyed it. Additionally, it's important to mention that even with the integration with Fitbit, the exercise monitoring is not that sophisticated. I don't see it measuring other things in certain exercises as I have seen in other watches. So I think that's another aspect that can be improved. For the moment, we have reached the end of this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, you can tell us, and we'll see you next time.